Let's talk about DJi controllers, and I've had the privilege of using quite a couple of them, and there's some I haven't, but I want to discuss them. So when you're buying a DJi drone, typically you have a couple of options in which controller you want to utilize. So you can get the DJi RC N1, and now they also have DJi RC N2, and that's basically your simple setup with a controller that does not have an inbuilt screen. You attach your phone, or you can even attach a tablet. You link it with a cable, which are included, and that way you then have your device that acts like the screen. So positives with using the RCN1, RCN2 for the Mavic Air 2 are, surprisingly, it's a little bit heavier than the ones with the screens, but it is very compact, and you have the ability to have a robust portable controller in which you put your phone in and away you go. One thing to consider with that though is if you have your phone as your primary screen and you get a phone call, you're potentially interrupting your flight and can cause some issues. So that's one thing to consider. The RCN1, the RCN2, very capable controllers, but if you want a screen built in, then you have the DJI RC controller. That one has a inbuilt screen, 700 nits, so very bright, you can see it in daylight, and it is also lighter than the RCN1. The benefits here, you've got an inbuilt screen, you turn on your drone, you turn on your controller, they're linked, that's it. You're not playing around with an app and you're not getting interrupted with calls, and also then you have your phone for calls, for text, for using, apps, and it's not taking up your phone device for the screen functionality because that's inbuilt in the controller. You have the ability to screen record through adding a micro SD in the bottom, and essentially when you're going flying you need two devices, your controller and the drone. You don't need a controller, drone and a phone. Beautiful screen and does everything it needs to be done, and it runs very quickly with the software they have inbuilt. You also have the DJI motion controller. They have two generations of it. The newest one I've used, that one can be used with a whole list now of drones. They updated the software to allow that to be capable. So I've used it with the Avata and I've used it with my Mini 3 Pro. And it is a cool way of flying. It's very intuitive, very good for learners and beginners, for children even. I had some family members utilize it and try it out, and simply gesturing forward and pulling the trigger allows you to go up and away, and rotate it by tilting around and going back and forth. You can utilize that controller, but you also need the goggles. So it's not possible to use it with just the drone and just that controller. You also need the goggles as well. Essentially, it's a first-person view controller, but a fantastic way of flying. Highly recommend it. If you haven't tried out first-person view flying yet, do it. Just do it any which way you can, and you will not regret it. It's a fun way to utilize a drone. So breakdown there, it's simple, it is very intuitive, and a lot of different people can utilize it to fly the drone, and you have the goggles, so great. And that comes in a bundle called the Explorer Pack, or the Explorer Combo. One controller I have not used yet, and I would love to, is the FPV controller. That controller, it comes in a few different iterations. There's a button in which you can fly with GPS, with full automation, where the drone is essentially keeping it level and keeping the motors going, and you can press a button to pause flight. It basically holds your hand as you're FPV flying. Again, you need goggles because it's FPV, but it holds your hand as you're flying the drone. You can then click a button to put it into manual mode, which gives you a lot more control over the drone. You then have to go into the settings and disable a few things to allow it to be full manual flight. That means you let go of all the controllers, the drone drops out the sky. You apply the motor and it kicks back in, and you can do some cool stuff with that. But I've been told it's a very big learning curve. A lot of people will utilize the FPV controller with the simulator that DJI provide to allow them to practice in the FPV world and give them some type of experience without physically flying the drone. And I've still seen experienced pilots, experienced flyers crash in the manual mode. That's why it's a very interesting device to use. I really want to learn it, and then that is going to be a learning curve, and that is going to be probably some videos I will create around that, because experienced pilots, people who I look up and respect in the flying world, still crashed using that. But it gives you a lot more control and allows you to fully dive the drone down a waterfall, down a mountain, get some very cool and interesting shots that you just can't get any other way. That is something I will be looking into. The last controller I have not had a chance to utilize is the DJi RC Pro. That's the black version of the controller and is compatible with certain drones, gives you a brighter display, gives you a better range, and it also has external antennas as well as internal antennas. It gives you some function buttons you don't get with other controllers, and it's essentially the best version of a controller that you can get outside of commercial stuff. If you have the budget, I would certainly recommend getting that where possible. The options I've spoke about already give you plenty of different scenarios in which you can find the controller that suits you, suits what you need, and suits your budget. For me personally, I'm flying on a day-to-day with the RC. I have utilized the RCN, but I end up getting the one with the screen, and it is so much more convenient. So that's my breakdown of the current controllers that you have. A little side note, the new Air 3 DJi drone comes with an RCN2 and a RC2. So the one without the screen, the one with the screen. The 2 indicates that they have different technology that allows the connection to the drone to be stronger and go greater distances, and a better transmission system. And the 2 also has external antennas, and the original ones don't, or the original RC does not. So that's a little side note as to what comes with the DJI Air 3. And it's only compatible with that one drone because of the technology that's built into the drone and the technology that's built into the controller, and can be compatible with anything else, and vice versa. The controllers I mentioned up until this point are not compatible with that Air 3, the newest drone, because of the technology that's inside. That is my breakdown of the different controllers. I hope you enjoyed.